If I walk away now, will you stop me? Her voice cracked like glass under pressure, each word trembling in the chilly night air. He stood there, frozen, a storm of emotions swirling behind his tired eyes. His nod came slowly, hesitantly, and with trembling hands that betrayed the strength he'd tried so hard to hold on to. In that single fragile moment, time itself seemed to pause. Two souls standing on the thin edge between holding on and letting go. Before we dive into this emotional journey, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to The Gentle Truth. Tell us where in the world you're watching from. Your stories and thoughts mean everything to us. Now take a deep breath, because this story isn't just about love. It's about courage, regret, and the quiet power of a single choice. The night sky stretched endlessly above them, stars scattered like distant promises neither of them could quite reach. She stood on the gravel path outside the old house, suitcase by her side, her heart pounding as if urging her to run before the weight of her decision crushed her resolve. For years, she had waited for him to say something, anything that would make her believe this love wasn't slipping through their fingers. But silence had been his language, and patience her burden. She wasn't sure which had hurt her more, his words that never came, or her own hopes that refused to die. He wanted to run to her, to grab her hand and never let go. He wanted to tell her that the nights without her voice felt empty, that her laughter was the only sound that made the house feel like home. But fear wrapped around his throat like an iron chain. What if he wasn't enough? What if she was meant for a life brighter than the one he could offer? The thought of losing her terrified him, but the thought of holding her back terrified him even more. His hands shook at his sides, desperate for movement, but his feet felt buried in the cold earth. She turned toward the gate, eyes glistening under the dim porch light. Every step forward felt like peeling away a piece of her soul. She remembered the mornings they spent chasing sunlight through the fields, the late-night talks that blurred into dawn, and the way he looked at her like she was both a mystery and a home. But lately, that warmth had faded, replaced by walls of hesitation and the sound of words left unsaid. She wasn't walking away because she stopped loving him. She was walking away because she couldn't keep waiting for him to love her out loud. He thought about all the moments he should have spoken. The time she cried silently beside him, and he pretended not to notice because he didn't know how to comfort her. The time she reached for his hand in the rain, and he hesitated because he was afraid of appearing weak. Each memory now struck him like a wave crashing against the shore of his conscience. He finally understood silence wasn't strength. Silence was surrender. And now, as she took another step away, he realized he had surrendered too much, too soon. The sound of the suitcase wheels rolling on the gravel echoed through the night like a quiet drumbeat of goodbye. She didn't look back. Not because she didn't want to, but because she feared if she did, she wouldn't have the strength to leave. She had spent so long hoping for a sign, for one act that would make her believe they could still fight for what they had. But now the only thing that stood between them was the unspoken, hanging heavily like mist. And then, something shifted. His breath caught, his chest ached, and for the first time he took a step forward. It wasn't a dramatic leap, just one shaky step, but it was real. His hands trembled as he reached out, fingers brushing the cold night air, as if trying to catch the last thread between them. He didn't know the perfect words. He didn't have a grand speech. All he had was the truth pounding inside him, begging to be released before it was too late. "Wait," he whispered. It wasn't loud, but it carried. It carried every sleepless night, every suppressed confession, every fragile dream. She froze mid-step. The world seemed to hold its breath. Slowly she turned, her eyes meeting his, searching, questioning, daring to hope one last time. He walked closer, each step fueled by the fear of a future without her. "If you walk away now," he said, voice shaking, "I'll let you, because I love you too much to hold you back. But I'll never stop wishing you'd stay. I'll never stop loving you." Her heart cracked open. Tears blurred her vision, and the walls she'd built began to crumble. She had waited so long for this moment. Not perfection, not promises, but honesty. The night didn't suddenly turn magical. The stars didn't fall. But something far more real happened. Two people stood facing their fears, their regrets, and their truths. She dropped the suitcase. He didn't rush forward like in the movies. Instead, he stood there, raw and trembling, letting her choose freely, and she did. She chose not because he begged her to stay, but because, for the first time, he let her see his heart. Sometimes love isn't about grand gestures. It's about the courage to speak when silence has been your shield. It's about taking one shaky step toward the person you can't imagine losing, even if your hands tremble and your voice cracks. That night didn't end with fireworks. It ended with two souls finding the courage to stop running from each other and from themselves. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share it with someone who believes in second chances. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your stories matter here. And if you haven't already, subscribe to The Gentle Truth for more powerful, emotional stories that stay with you long after the screen fades to black.